Welcome back to Ask Me How I Know. I am so grateful that you have joined me once again. And I wanted to let you know it's just me today, which means it's a mindset episode. And I love delving into how we think and how we interact with the world around us. So today we have a great concept. But before I go there, I always want to ask that if you're enjoying Ask Me How I Know, if you're enjoying mindset episodes, would you please be sure to rate and review this fledgling podcast and help lift it up into the sky of podcasts that are available out there. Well, today I want to talk about this concept of like when you're in the middle. And no matter what you do, you're going to have the middle effect happen in your life, right? So you start a project and then you don't just instantly finish it. You have to actually like endure and like see a project through to the end. Well, a lot of times that middle part just feels like forever. And it can really just kind of drag on. Recently, I read this book and I keep quoting this book. I think I've put like little excerpts of it over on my personal Facebook page, things like that. It's so powerful. The funny thing is that I checked this book out of the library, which is not I don't typically check books out for me, but before everything was being shut down, actually, it was the last day you could get to the library. I wanted to make sure my kids had tons of books because they're voracious readers. And lo and behold, the book I'm going to show you in just a second and tell you about was just sitting on there like, hey, recommendations from the library, check this one out. And so, all that to say, I thought it grabbed me. I mean, hello, it has this big yellow circle and it just says when. I mean, that's kind of grabs my attention instantly. It's by Danielle Pink. I'll put like a link to it in the show notes and everything. But it says the scientific secrets of perfect timing. And I'm thinking, man, as I venture deeper into investing, I mean, everyone wants to have perfect timing, right? Like, oh man, is this book going to tell me like how I can figure out the right time? Is this the crystal ball? Well, it's not exactly a crystal ball, but it does give a lot of information that has already been very helpful in my life. So, going back to that idea of the middle, right? Um, the middle just is where our minds can just melt. It's that moment where we can actually like quit and give up. And then we never see the finish and we don't get that satisfaction. And if you don't have that satisfaction of finishing something, then really, are you going to want to go back and do it? I mean, you're not going to want to do it again. Um, the way I think about this, and y'all, I have to apologize. I'm going to tell you a mountain biking story, but every time I go out on these mountain bike rides that are epic. In fact, last week we went, on a 17-mile high country mountain bike ride, and I have plenty of stories to tell from that mountain bike ride. But anyhow, there's this point where you're in the middle. It's like the first, so many miles, they're like fun and you have tons of energy and it's like new terrain and you're excited to be out there and you're with your buddies and it's like, this is great. And then every time you hit that hard spot, right? For me on this last ride, just the way my schedule turned out, I didn't get enough nutrition. And we could correlate that to so many different other things that we don't get when we're entering the middle part of an event or an experience or a job, a task, whatever it is. So here I am, happy at the beginning. All of a sudden, my nutrition, I tank out and we're hitting some really steep uphill climbs. And I am just like starting to mentally have that meltdown, and it's the one that you don't want to show to anybody, right? So you're just like, oh man, I got to get this under control. So naturally, I just grabbed something out of my backpack and got that nutrition going on and kept going. But in that middle spot, there was like this 1 mile long, steep, sustained climb. It was raining, and there's just this whole bunch of water just gushing. It's like a little creek on the trail that we're riding. So, tires are slipping and, you know, to me, that's fun. For most people, that might be a little uncomfortable, but it was a challenge, right? And this 1 mile of challenge just sometimes makes you want to quit. Like, those are the moments where I say, why am I doing this? Like, I like the challenge, but really, I could have eaten a great dinner at home. I could be dry. I wouldn't have cold feet, wouldn't have mud everywhere all over me. All of these things go through your head, right? Like, there are other options. And so, even as we do tasks for our jobs, right? We come up to these moments where we're like, oh my gosh. And a lot of times it ends up coming down to the boss, right? Like, the complaints begin. Initially it might be like, okay, we're going to do this job. And then the complaints come in as the task becomes more challenging or more demanding, or you actually have to do something, right? And so it's like you start complaining to like, I can't believe our boss is having us do this. This is so ridiculous. These are just no different than TPS reports. Why? And so that is that moment where you have the greatest opportunity. So all of that to lead up to this really cool concept that Pink gives in this book, When. And that is that when you're in the middle, it's really imperative to remain focused. It's imperative to make sure that you are clear and you understand exactly what you're trying to accomplish. You need to have your goal, you need to know what your goal is, and then know how you're measuring it and gauge where you are at in that process. Just that series of checks and balances. Now, a lot of times people start to get grouchy in the middle. And so maybe at the beginning, you all get along and it's so much fun. And then you're going along. And that's when the arguments begin and the bickering and things like that. And so having that clear communication, having that clear set of this is my goal, is going to significantly help you out when you are in the middle. So I want you to really contemplate right now, like, what is a goal that you have in your life that you've been working for, and maybe you're feeling a little bit discouraged, like, golly, this is not happening fast enough. I've been putting in all this labor and I'm not getting anything out. Don't quit. You're almost there. That moment right there where you're just like, oh, I just want to quit. That's that moment right there where you have to hold on extra tight. You've got to lock your eyes onto, like, get your sights set on your goal and be very vigilant in being clear about where you're going and what you're doing. It's powerful. It's so powerful. For me on that particular ride, I'll share some other stories, I'm sure, in other podcasts. But on that ride, it's like I mentally reminded myself, I felt like this before. And that's another strategy that's really helpful. I have felt these feelings before. I have wanted to quit. I have wanted to give up. I have been here and I've been at the finish line, and I know how great that feels, and I know I can do it. Taking control of those thoughts and saying, I can do this. I've done it before. I will do this. You have got this. The middle is actually the sweetest spot, okay? And it's going to nearly every time get really nasty right before you cross that finish line. I'll never forget finishing my first half marathon, first and only for the record. but, I just did it as a bucket list item. And, like, at the closer I got to the finish line, there was that window of mileage where I knew I was getting close to the finish line. I knew I wasn't there yet. I'm depleted, drained, tired, and just maintaining that focus will help you out tremendously. And then once you see that finish line, it does get a little easier, but you're going to hit some hard spots. So always have a plan. Be prepared. Know what you're going to do when you hit that hard spot, and remind yourself every single time, oh, I'm in the middle and this is going to be over, and I've done this before and I'm going to do it again because I'm a rock star. You guys are awesome. Thanks so much for joining me for this episode. And please, drop some comments. Catch me over on the book face if you want, and let me know what you think. Maybe there's some concepts that you'd like to share with me, and I am completely open to that and would love your feedback. Until next time, please remember that your freedom is tied in with the choices that you make. So make great choices and have that freedom that you're looking for in life.
Thanks so much for joining me for another episode of Ask Me How I Know. My guests are the most humble successes, so be sure to show them your appreciation by rating this episode 5 stars, which sounds silly, but let's be real. Ratings, likes, and shares, they take no time at all, but make all the difference in the world, if only to boost morale. Also, since I don't spend time on the how and why they got into investing, be sure to check out the show notes to get to know more about today's guests, including other podcasts they've been on that has a more traditional format that will give other details about their investment journey. It'll also tell you things like the most influential person in their life and what they're reading right now, as well as how to connect with them. And please, subscribe and rate Ask Me How I Know so it reaches other listeners like you. Until next time, go find your freedom.